what are we doing in the black community? The number one consumer of a Mercedes-Benz is us. Us. The number one consumer of a Gucci and a Louis Vuitton, us. And they don't even advertise. Why is it that in the black community, we are always the number one consumer, but we're not the number one creators?
So you just said it, the fact that there's consumers and creators. For so long, we assume success based on consumption.
Welcome back to Close the Gap, the truth about black wealth. Of course, I'm here with man, Mr. Otis Leverett, man. We've been having a wonderful time,
Yes,
great
sir.
day, man. Been informed, uplifted, enlightened, encouraged to know that, you know, it's a lot of wonderful men out there doing great works in the community, you know, really, you know, pouring their heart out for kids and, you know, trying to do the best they possibly can and give everything they got. And, you know, of course, you know, we all have, you know, our own separate journeys. We all have been through different things in life. And like I said, that road wasn't always straight. You know, always been some bumps in the road, and we've all fallen down and gotten back up. And, you know, like I said, you know, you had a time where obviously you were drafted out of UAB to the San Diego Chargers. You know, I remember because I remember seeing the draft day, and I was like, wow, I played with somebody who got drafted to the NFL. That was my goal, was just to get to college, and I'm like, wow, maybe I got a chance to do something like that. And, you know, so that was inspiration to me. And, you know, tell me what that journey was like, and what are some things that you wish you had have known going into that process? Because, you know, I went through the process. I didn't get drafted, obviously, but I did go through the process of, okay, you can get an agent. You know, he introduced me to a couple of different financial advisors. He told me, well, you got a chance to get picked up between 5th and 7th round free agent. So I experienced the process a little bit, but didn't get to the payday, obviously, on the back end to see, you know, how did that work? Because I know I made a lot of mistakes. Even being in the business as a young man when I started, you know, making a little bit of money, but I can only imagine, you know, being in your situation, you know, what that process was like for you. So what are some of the I would say the struggles and pitfalls that you know, wish you had have known about at that time?
Man, I absolutely love this question because I just feel like true deliverance comes from transparency. So I gotta, we talked about some of the good things, and you gotta hit on this because again, we selling kids this journey that tells them that, hey man, there ain't gonna be no bumps in the road, everybody for you, and it's gonna be all right. But just to dive into, and this is what I love what you do so much, and I you know, when we hit on it, I don't think a lot of people, especially in the black community and some of the minority communities, understand the power of what you're doing. And I'll tell you why. Because there are 1,000 people, when you're making $1 million or you're making $150, there are 1,000 people that can show you how to spend money. So if we're really playing chess, if we're really gonna play chess, one thing in chess teaches us we gotta be able to have a counter to what's going on. Well, you're the counter. But a lot of us don't have people like you in our corner because everybody gonna teach you how to spend money. Every commercial in America is about spend. Everything on the internet is teaching you how to spend money. But you don't have the fiduciary people around you to teach the things that you're teaching. So what I learned, man, through the NFL, I lost a lot of money, and it's so crazy because I see misinformed people, see guys in the NFL, man, he had $30 million, man, I don't feel sorry for him. He broke, man, he over there wasting money. Man, I never bought a bunch of chains. I never bought a bunch of extravagant houses, cars, but it was the inevitability that came with not understanding money that was gonna lead me down a path no matter how much. And what I learned, you can't necessarily just save your way to riches and wealth. I had no knowledge of investments. I had no understanding of where to put money. Even more so than that, man, you know, I call the NFL a Scooby-Doo mystery. You know when you watch Scooby-Doo when you were a kid, when you know they looked around trying to find out who the one was in, you know, who's the monster in the haunted house. And everybody looking around, and then at the end they pull the mask off and like, oh, it was the butler. You know, it's always the people around you, you know. And so you got these agents, you got these financial guys, you got these coaches and people in the team, and you got family members, and you got all these people. And when it's all over, you realize that through this whole circle of people, you rationing out so much money to all of them, and you look at it when everybody dispersed, your money was given out right in that circle. Your agent introduces you to a guy to sell cars. The guy to sell cars introduces you to a guy that sells life insurance. The guy to sell life insurance introduces you to a guy that that does real estate. The guy that does real estate introduces you to a girl who does investment. You see, and what you're going to find out is, it's like the Scooby-Doo mystery. You pull the mask off at the end of the thing and like, wow, like y'all all working together the whole time, and then it just seems so. That's why I don't believe in irony. I don't believe in coincidence anymore. It seems so ironic and so, and we'll call it coincidence, but man, if you would have just opened up your eyes and had the right people like yourself around you that you could trust in, and we talked about trust and what you're doing, and having that trust, man, you could avoid a lot of those pitfalls. And so that's the one thing when I ended up broke and flat on my face, and again, was not the guy I wasn't on the bling bling commercial. I wasn't stunning with the hot boys. It's just I had no understanding of money and didn't have the right people around me and didn't understand the power of checks and balances. Meaning pull somebody from without this circle that I meet myself instead of being tricked into believing, hey man, I met this guy last week, you ought to talk to him about your money, not knowing they all, and then 10 years later you run into him at a hotel. Man, y'all been together the whole time.
Absolutely.
You see, so that was the biggest thing that I learned, man, and that's why I respect so heavily what you're doing, man. It's just taking that misinformation to true information that's usable and applicable. Because, and I'll say this last thing, I've learned this over the years, and I can tell your passion from talking to you. Man, people say knowledge is power. I would disagree every day of the week, and I'll tell you why. Knowledge ain't power, it's the application of knowledge that's power. We can sit up here all day around this table and go over all the financial strategies we want to. But if you ain't got the right people around you to teach you how to become an applier of what you're talking about, then all you got is what I call a bunch of FYI, and you'll be good on Jeopardy one day. If they let you get on Jeopardy, you'll know all the answers to the questions. But other than that, the ability to apply, so that's what I love about when you sit here talking, you talking about the teacher aspects, the education of it, going through the journey. This is how people learn how to apply, as opposed to getting a whole bunch of FYI and they get out in the car like, okay, man, that sounded good, but where do we go from here? Yeah. And so big ups to you, man. And yeah, I went through some stuff the hard way to realize the power of people like you.
Well, that's like I said. I mean, people, parents do the lack of knowledge. I mean, that's where our community has fallen short. But you can't educate yourself at all times. And that's why we always kind of go back to that trust. And unfortunately, we haven't had enough of those trustworthy entities in our community. And I think that's where, we have to start kind of building up our own. We need to have our own, law firms, doctor's offices, financial advisory companies, insurance companies, real estate companies. We need to own our own. So now we can there's a better chance of somebody looking like me telling me the truth than somebody who doesn't. Yeah. Because 9 out of 10, if somebody that don't look like you, they trying to utilize what you can bring to them to add value to them. Mm-hmm. We've gotten a lot of people that look like us that just told the truth and shot us straight. Yeah. How many people that don't look like you then just shot you straight for no reason? Most times it's been the other way around. Absolutely. But unfortunately, the people that we've seen in these positions of trust has always been from an outside community, because we don't have anybody that looks like us within it to do this. Yeah. So that's where we have to start building that up, and we have to start kind of educating ourselves. And I think we've got a lot better about that. I think people are a lot better about wanting to educate themselves, but it's, where we're getting the information from now is, like you said, end of the day, how to apply it. I mean, I had a story I told her, I said the same thing. I was thinking on another episode where, my sister's an engineer, and, and I can read all of her engineering books, but I can't do none of what she do. So like you said, I got a lot of FYI information. I can read it, but I can't apply it. Yeah. So I think that's where, we have to start to kind of bridge that gap, and working with each other and continue utilizing each other. Because I think what you do is needed, because, these kids need a voice. Absolutely. You always need that person, that you can trust no matter what. I always say, for me, trust is more important than knowledge. Absolutely. Because if somebody trusts you and they care about you, you're going to go a little bit further for that person. Absolutely. So, and people always ask me, like, what's your greatest attribute as an advisor? I just tell them I care. There's nobody that don't look like you that's going to care more about you than me. Yeah. Like I care about the people I care about everybody I work with, but I have a heart and affinity obviously for my community, even more so because I know what we've been through. I know what we're still going through. So, I want to help any and everyone I come into contact with, but I especially want to see my community, excel and exceed what their expectations are even for themselves. Be back in a minute.
Yeah. Coming in, flex. I just wanna win, LABB, who we running with, 2233, I'm on 10 again, state your name. Big been dope on flame, I just switched the lanes. Damn, he did it again, I just flipped the pain. Stripping and dipping in bass, slab on everything. Swimming, you sinking away, cause I got big racks coming, I put my low racks on.
Again, man, Otis Leverett, AKA most of the people in this city know me as Coach O. Been running this business, Modern Day Fitness, now going on 14 years. Been blessed to train over 300 kids that have went on to play college sports on full scholarship, both male and females. But been blessed as a whole to train probably in the neighborhood of 2,000-3,000 kids over in that process, who I'm just proud of. Some of them in the military, some of them in the general workforce, some of them in college just getting their degrees academically. So I've been blessed to be able to touch a ton of people. Me and you were talking about the pandemic a little earlier, and one of the, again, man, and shout out to everybody who lost someone during that pandemic, because that was a rough sled, and we ain't all the way out of the woods with it. And don't want. I would be remiss if I didn't say that. But me and you talked about some of the things that we gathered from the pandemic, and one thing the pandemic did, man, it made me more creative. I got out business-wise because a lot of gyms were closed, a lot of schools were closed. You didn't really have opportunities to have a whole bunch of public gatherings, man. So, man, I went and bought an old box truck from a guy who used to do furniture upholstering. He just had it sitting up on the old pecan tree, and I never will forget, man, my wife, we laugh about it now. When she took me to get the truck, she looking at me like, man, you know, every day you get a little crazy. and the truck was smoking and all kind of other stuff, man. And the whole time during the pandemic, when I wasn't training, I took time out, man, to put that truck together and, went up under the hood. I did a lot of stuff, man, and YouTube might be the greatest trade school in America. And so, man, just went through it, and it took me about 7-8 months, but I was able to create a mobile box truck that gives me an opportunity to go anywhere. I can jump up and go to Atlanta and train a group of kids if I want to. I literally got everything I need to get through a training session in the back of that truck, and I can go anywhere. So that was one of the things that when we talked about the pandemic that made me be a bit more creative and see my business from another light. And so that was a cool time for me.
Well, no, I mean, that's amazing. I think we all kind of learn. I think you either thrive through it or died in it.
Yeah.
I mean, literally and figuratively to a certain extent. Like I said, I prayers with those who lost people throughout the pandemic, but I think obviously from a business owner perspective, it was adapt or die.
Yeah.
So it's either, you take advantage of the situation and see what you can do differently, do better. I mean, I went out and bought video conference equipment. I said, okay, if I can't see you face to face, we're going to do via video conference. So, I made an investment into that. So, and the crazy thing about it, I probably do more appointments now via video conference than I ever did before in the past, probably altogether. So, those are things that, made me evolve. It made me go and revamp. It's one of the reasons, Closing the Gap started. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was sitting at home and trying to put things together and say, okay, well, I had been kind of kicking around the idea of doing a podcast, and, I got a lot to say about certain subjects and wanted to get some things off my chest. And I said, you know what? I'm sitting around here not doing anything. Well, you know what? I think it'd be a good time to start. So, the idea of Closing the Gap was born in the pandemic, so to speak. Got involved, started doing a radio show, monthly radio show. And so it like I said, it made me more creative because I'm not a very creative person. I'm very... I
beg to differ, but I hear you.
Within my wheelhouse, I may be creative, but just from an overall, marketing standpoint, I'm not very creative because I'm more of a, let my work speak for itself type person.
Yeah.
I'm not a boastful in that way of go telling you what I've done. I'd rather you hit my store from someone I've helped.
Yeah, exactly.
And get my business that way. So I've always been as an advisor, more of a referral based person. I've never done, any marketing and advertising to that standpoint. I am big on branding, and I think that's something that is very key for any business owner. And these are things that, of course, any business owner that are watching, I think these are things that you need to understand is there's a difference between marketing and branding. Marketing is just advertising, hopefully trying to get some hits. Branding is building your image. It's building the reflection that you want people to see of you, yourself, and your organization. So I've always been big on that. I've always been, quality over quantity.
Absolutely.
I've never been one of those things that trying to be everything to all people. I just want to be the best at, what I am, within what I do. And I've always kind of stayed and kind of focused on it. And I think that served me well because one of the things, like I think you talked about in the lessons that you're teaching your kids, is that I'm a firm believer that if you're skillful in your work, you'll be placed before great men.
Absolutely.
So I don't feel like you have to market a lot and do certain things, because I feel like if you are, the best at what you do and you're always trying to hone your skills and you're always putting people first and you care about what you do first and foremost, I feel like God will place you in the rooms you need to be in. He'll bring the people to you. I've never worried about, where my clients are going to come from.
Yeah.
I've had colleagues that have come into business, not in the business, they just, man, I can't create enough people to see. Because that's, of course, the trick for any company is, how do I create enough qualified candidates to come utilize my services? That's the struggle that every business owner has to a certain extent. And I've never worried about that because my faith is always answer that question. I believe that, I trust God and God gonna make it happen. God gave me a vision that he wanted me to create this organization. He wants me to teach people how to create generational wealth. So if he gave me the vision, then he got to give me the people too, because he can't lie. If he showed you the vision, he must bring it to pass. So now I got to do my part on the other end to make sure that, faith without works is there. So I got to be putting some work in on my side. But as I put in that work, God can now reveal what he wants me to have. So I've always been blessed just from understanding and just my own kind of, spiritual walk that's giving me that confidence to not worry about certain things and how I'm going to make it. Because I remember when I went into business and, I told my dad I was going to be a financial advisor versus, going into coaching and teaching. He was like, you sure you want to do that? It's like, trying to talk to black folks about money, it might not work out too well for you. So, but, it's one of those things I was willing to bet on myself. I was willing to, test the waters because, I'm one of the people that just believe, like I say, if it hadn't been done, it's meant for you to do. And if you have a vision, you have a passion, and it's going to work out, it's going to succeed, and God has made that promise. So if he's revealed it to you, you have that relationship with God and you've heard him speak to you. He has to bring it to pass. You just have to do your part. And I think that's where a lot of people miss the boat. And what we talked about in the beginning of the podcast is those prayers that, grandmama had and mama had and granddad and dad and all those things. And, it comes a point where you hit rock bottom, so to speak. Now you got to get on your knees and pray on your own. And once you start to pray, then, as you're listening, God can now reveal those things to you. And I think once he reveals that to you, now you can take it and run with it. So I've been on the same mission of trying to teach my community how to create generational wealth since the day that God gave me that back in 2008 when I woke up one morning. I've been running that same race each and every day with the undying passion, good or bad. So I've had a lot of bad days along the way, and I've had some good days along the way as well. But regardless of what my situation was or how it looked, there was a passion inside of me that would not die, because I trust God that he's going to make a way, and he always has. Like I say, it may not come when you want to be always on time. I mean, I've lived that and I've experienced that, and I've watched it continue to manifest itself. And it's one of the things you said earlier, I had to learn to enjoy the journey, not the destination.
Yeah, absolutely.
And those are things, like I said, we talk about, what are some things that we look back, we would have done different. I was, would have worked harder, would have chased every rep and does those from an athlete standpoint, but within life, from a business standpoint, and like I said, we all have a finite period of time here on this earth, and my goal and dream is to maximize what God wants me to do here.
Absolutely.
I believe that the biggest compliment I feel like you can give a person is that you see God in them. And for me, I'm one of those people, if I don't see God in you, I don't talk to you. Yeah. That's just kind of, that's just kind of the way I'm wired. I'm one of the people where I'm kind of straight shooter. I don't deal with a lot of people. I don't really go out and do a lot of things. But you know, I cherish relationships. You know, I cherish people, even though I may not communicate with a bunch of people, but I'm one of them guys that I'm gonna salute you from afar. I'm watching your posts, I'm seeing, hey man, I'm proud of Otis. I love what he's doing. I see what you're doing. You know, Lord bless him and continue to, you know, go forth and do it. I'm that kind of guy that's just, you know, the way I'm wired. I feel kind of fake, just, you know, popping up out the blue. Hey man, you know, good job, man. I want to celebrate you. It's just not me. To each his own. But for me, man, I'm thankful. I'm proud, man. I'm glad you spent some time with me today, man. I'm looking forward to get my son over there with you.
Oh, definitely.
I want him to come get some of that work.
Definitely.
I want him to get some of that straightening because he need a lot of that. You know, some of that accountability. Because he definitely falls into that category of that kid that, you know, they got it all, that they enjoying the fruits of the labor, but, you know, happy to be on the team, but not wanting to be the best on the team. A lot of, you know, luckily he's been a little bit blessed. He got a mama that ran track in college, so he had blessed with a little bit of athletic ability. But, you know, for me is the gift is in the journey, and I'm a fan of LeBron James because there's one thing he said that I always remember is that he learned to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
So in order to be successful in any phase of life, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. From a business owner, whether it's an athlete, an entrepreneur, whatever it may be, you know, getting comfortable being uncomfortable. I want you to take that out of this message. See you next time.